Hey guys, it's Seth here, back with another video. Thanks so much for watching. Like I said in my last video, I wanted to go over a little bit more about my own college experience. This video is going to be a little bit different. It's going to be 10 tips to help you be more successful in college. And a lot of this is, of course, based on my own experience and just things that I've picked up along the way. Having graduated with my undergrad degree and being about a year away from graduating with my master's degree, I've definitely learned a lot over the years, and so I'm hoping just to sort of share some of the misconceptions I had about college, and also some of the tricks of the trade that you really have to go through college in order to learn. So let's go ahead and get started. My first tip is probably kind of cliche. You've probably heard it before, but it really does ring true. And so the first one is going to be get involved. This may seem simple, but it's true across the board. Get involved means a number of things. It means, take opportunities that you get. If you hear about an opportunity to travel or an opportunity to explore something or to do research, take that opportunity. Some of the best friends that I've made during college have been made because I got involved with different clubs on campus. Debate, student government, just being able to get involved and to talk to other people is really paramount to making the most out of your college experience. So definitely get involved in that aspect. If people invite you out, whether that be, just like a friendly get-together or a party, as long as you're, reasonable about it, then go ahead and do that, because that's how you're going to make the most out of college. If your professors ask you to do something, maybe extra, it's also probably good to do that and to get more involved with them. And because making friends with faculty, in fact, is another one of my tips. I'll talk a little bit more about that later. But really it is important to just get involved across the board and to not drop any of the balls there, because at the end of the day, you can go through college, you can get the grades, but if you're not actually experiencing the activities and the travel and all the different people that you're going to meet and making friends, then you're not making the most out of your college experience. So of course my first tip is to just get involved. Now my second one, this one is going to probably not be talked about as much by other people, but it was incredibly important for me, and I think it's also going to be important for anyone, especially if you're worried about your grades, but also just your general experience in college. So my second tip is going to be use apps like Rate My Professor. The reason why I suggest using apps like these are because they really do matter at the end of the day. Now, I'm not saying Rate My Professor or other apps like that should be the be-all end-all for you deciding which classes to take. But if you know you're taking a class and you know that different professors are teaching it, and you go on apps like these and find that one professor is rated super well, has glowing reviews by every student, be that because they're just like an all-around great professor, sometimes because they are easier in a topic that is hard, but it can be a variety of things. But at the end of the day, those do matter. That's going to help your GPA. It's also probably going to help you to make connections. You may not be, if you're somebody who doesn't really like college as much or doesn't really like attending class or something like that, then having a professor who really connects with students can help you to do that and can help you to stay motivated in college. So I really do encourage people to use these apps. Sometimes they get a bad rap. Sometimes people say, well, they're not accurate, and they're not always accurate, but I would say 9 times out of 10 they are, and throughout my career they have helped me a ton in terms of both avoiding professors who weren't so good, but also making some really smart decisions in terms of choosing professors who really understood the subject and loved the subjects that they were teaching. Moving on to my third tip. My third tip is Scout. Scout is the motto that I like to live by in life, and it really does apply to college as well. And Scout, of course, means a variety of things as well. You can scout your professors. If you know you have a professor you're going to take, look up their interests. What are they interested in? What part of the country did they come from? It kind of sounds like stalking a little bit, but I think it's important to know, where your professor is coming from, because you may share the same interests, or you might not, and that might guide how you go through the course or what you talk about or how you choose to talk about a certain subject. And I think that's very important. It's also just an important life lesson, especially when you're going into the job market later on. But really scouting things, especially professors, is important. It can be important when you're looking for scholarships. A lot of the times people miss scholarship opportunities simply because they aren't looking for it or they're not looking in the right spots. So if you actually put in the effort to explore the opportunities at your college, go on your college's webpage, click through just a couple of slides. Maybe you'll find a club you didn't know about. Maybe you'll find a scholarship opportunity you didn't know about. But at the end of the day, you'll find something relevant, and that's just by researching for a few minutes. So putting in that extra time really does pay off at the end of the day. And it's just something that I think a lot of people sort of brush off as maybe not so important, or I can be doing something else with this time. And that might be true, but I don't think you're going to find many other things that are going to pay dividends than to actually research things and find opportunities that may be a little bit off the beaten path, that may be a little bit hidden, but at the same time are still very important. Now, my fourth tip is probably a pretty boring tip, but it is important, and so many students miss this or don't do it, and that's check your email. Your email or portal or essentially your college interface, whatever that is crucially important. And I think coming from high school, or at least my high school, we never checked our email, or we didn't have a high school email. So I wasn't really great at checking my email, but in college, everything was sent by email, or it was uploaded onto our college portal. And so it was pivotal that, we check that, both for financial aid, for scholarships, for something that professors might upload or request from us. So really it is so important, and yet I hear about students every year who either miss financial opportunities, or they forget to turn in an assignment, or just something disastrous because they just can't check their email, and it's so simple, but at the same time it seems like it's one of the biggest reasons why students either fail out or don't have as good of a time or as good of grades as they possibly can, just because they're not checking their email. So like I said, that is my, I think, fourth tip. I'm already losing track of what number one. I think that is my fourth tip though. Okay, so my fifth tip, and I've already talked about this a little bit earlier, but make friends and connections with faculty members. I think sometimes there's this stigma that there's this separation, and that there's this mentor role and we can't break that, but that's absolutely not true. Most professors want to help you. Most professors want to befriend you in some sort of way, and of course, this does not mean go sleep with your professor. Don't do that. I would not recommend that. No, that's not speaking from my own personal experience, but yeah, I would not recommend that. However, it is so much important down the road for professors can write you recommendations. I know professors who I've taken now 5 years ago who I'm still essentially friends with, and who still write me glowing recommendations, who I still talk to on a regular basis. And it's just great to have their wealth of knowledge to always turn to. And it's always great because they have such of a network themselves that when you are a great student and when they can just talk about you, it really does open up more opportunities, both in the collegiate world, but also in the job market. And so really try to make those connections with faculty. Go the extra mile with faculty, because it will pay off in the end. My tip 6 is going to be balance your time. Balancing your time, if you're not a good balancer of time, there's got to be a better way to say it, manager of time. In college or in high school, and then you're coming to college, it's something that you're going to have to learn. And this really goes both ways. I know a lot of kids who spend way too much of their time going off partying and not getting anything done. And if you're one of those kids, then you might have a good time for that first semester in college, but you're probably not going to be there too long if you don't also learn to balance time for studying and getting your work done and getting involved in academic extracurriculars as well. Now, on the flip side, there are also a lot of people, probably more people that I'm friends with, who have trouble going overboard with the academic side, and you absolutely can go overboard with the academic side. I took several overload semester course loads, and they were kind of excruciating at times. I'm not saying don't ever do those, but you have got to learn when to take breaks. You've got to learn that, getting things done the fastest way may not be the best way. So go at your own pace. My recommendation is take a regular course load the first semester you're at college, and then you can either scale down or scale up. But that way you're kind of working off of a normal basis as you're getting adjusted to college, the flow of things. It can be overwhelming, and that's okay, but don't come into college thinking it's going to be a party, and also don't come into college saying that you're not going to do anything at all in terms of extracurriculars or getting involved with friends or meeting people, because I think that's one thing that this generation sometimes has trouble with is socializing and putting ourselves out there. And so that's also really important, and just also having time for self-care and making sure that we ourselves are okay, both mentally, physically, emotionally, etc. So my 7th tip is to plan your schedule for the semester, but also for the week. I think a lot of us come in just thinking we're gonna live college day by day, and sometimes we might need to do that in situations where we're feeling overwhelmed. We need to take things day by day. But it's really important to plan out, how many years do I want to be at college? Do I want to be at college for 3 years? Do I want to be at college for 5 years? Is it more important that I take my time, or is it more important that I get done? And this is going to vary for everyone, and it's not like a one-size-fits-all solution. But at the same time, it is crucially important. I think there's just a sense of relief I get knowing that I have a plan for the future, and maybe that's not everybody, but it does really help. And I also find that professors and advisors, it looks better to them if you look like you have your shit together, and that makes sense. And so really do try to plan out your schedule. Make sure that you're registering as early as possible, so the first day that classes are available to sign up for them, because chances are the best professors, the best classes, they are going to go first. And so if you're not on the ball, then you might get into a class that's at 8 o'clock in the morning when you are a night owl, and so that's probably not going to pair up. I'm definitely not somebody who likes to go to really early morning classes. I have had to take those a few times, and sometimes my grades have been a little bit lower because I've had to take those classes that are not really suited to my personality. But most of the time I'm able to schedule classes at a time where it's convenient for me, and I also perform the best. And this is also the same in terms of knowing when you're going to study, where you're going to study. Some of us are better in library settings. Others, I know me personally, I do much better when I'm in my own space, when I'm in my own room, and I can just focus and sit down for hours, as opposed to just breaking it up into 1-hour intervals. But like I said, everyone's different, so just plan your schedule. Number 8 is don't be afraid to change your major. And I think this one, you'll hear a lot of different things. Some people say you need to come in with a concrete plan. I think it's better to come in with a concrete plan if you know what you're wanting to do, because it will probably save you a little bit of time. But I know I switched my major probably the first 4 or 5 semesters I was in college, simply because I did not know what I wanted to do. And I'm, so happy that I did that. I'm still, honestly, with the major that I'm in now, and I'm pursuing a master's degree, I'm not 100% that's what I want to do for the rest of my life, but I feel a lot better than, say, if I had kept my first major that I'd ever enrolled in. And so don't be afraid to switch around. Sometimes majors seem like drastic changes if you're changing from a liberal arts degree to a hard science degree or vice versa, but really it comes down to what you want to do. I think a lot of people talk about useless degrees, underwater basket weaving, is the joke, but really, in reality, you can be successful with almost any degree. I'm not going to say there aren't degrees out there that are more or less important than others, or more or less easy to market than others, but if you want to do something, then do it. If you feel like changing your major, then absolutely do it. Don't hesitate, because it really, you're going to end up regretting it later in some capacity. It's just better to follow your heart on these things. And of course, you can always consult with an advisor, and it is good to consult with an advisor before switching your major. But at the end of the day, this is one of those issues where I say, follow your heart. Okay, so we're almost done. Tip number 9. Tip number 9 is going to be experience trumps GPA. So getting into college, GPA does matter a lot, and GPA still matters a lot while you're in college. I'm not saying don't care about your GPA. But at the same time, as I've started applying for jobs and applying for like high-level positions within academia, I've noticed that my experience, my research experience, my internship experience, my extracurricular experience tends to matter a lot more than my GPA, which in undergrad I had a 4.0 perfect GPA. And so, GPA does matter. It looks good to say, hey, you have a 4.0 and you've kept that every semester you've been in school. That does look good. But it can only tell your employer so much. Some students go through college, have a 4.0, and don't do anything else. But if you're getting involved in different extracurriculars, if you're attending research conferences, if you're taking the time to write your own research and work with professors on it, that's going to say a ton about you. That's going to say that you're a devoted student who is original, who comes up with their own ideas, who's willing to collaborate on projects, and who's willing to come up with a finished project. And so that's going to say a ton. It's also going to get you a lot of reputation. That's really important if you want to pursue a career in academia or just go out in the job market as a whole. So really, make sure that you're getting that experience. If you travel, that's going to make you look more worldly. Experience does trump GPA at the end of the day. And so also don't worry too much if you get, a couple B's or C's. That's not the end of the world, most likely. Just make sure you're keeping a good enough GPA to maintain your scholarships. And if you do that, if you have good experiences otherwise, you're going to be a pretty successful student in college. All right, so I think we've reached our last tip. So my tip number 10 is you're gonna have bad days, you're gonna have breakdowns, and that's okay. It's more about how you respond to those breakdowns than having them one way or the other. So I'll just do a little story time here. My first week of college was the first week I was driving. I was a late bloomer in that aspect. So I was terrified I was going to crash into somebody. So I parked super away from everyone and was just gonna walk. And unfortunately, a lot of new drivers, I guess, had that idea because I was parked and this dude just comes flying through the parking lot, hits me while I'm parked. And so I had to call the campus police. We had to, exchange insurance information. And then I had to walk, we're walking back to the campus with this kid. And turns out not only did we have the exact same we were in the exact same building, we ended up having the exact same class together, and there were only 2 seats left in that class by the time we got there because we were late. And of course, so we sat next to each other, and he spent the whole time, dude who hit my car, trying to be friends with me, which, I guess that's good on his part, but after you hit my car on one of the first days of school, I really don't have a desire to be friends with you, at least not that moment. So anyway, that gave me pretty much a panic attack later on that week. I told my parents I wanted to quit school, this was not the thing for me. So I had a literal breakdown that first week, but I picked myself up, kept going, and really I've still had definite breakdowns since then, but I've just, kept chugging along, and I'm so glad I did. I would have been, I don't know where I would be if I had quit school that first week. Probably working a job that isn't suited for me, that doesn't fulfill the best of my potential, and so I'm so glad that I stuck with it. But just know you are going to have those days. If anyone's naive enough to come into college thinking they're not going to have bad days, that they're not going to have breakdowns, then you're going to get your ass handed to you at the end of the day. So just know that you're going to have those bad days and be ready to respond. Come up with a routine that works for you when you're feeling down, whether that is just taking a me day, or maybe it's working out or doing something physical, going for a hike, going outside. It can be numerous things, but just find something that works for you. And that way you're able to rebound when those days inevitably happen. And just know that there's going to be also great days on the horizon where you're going to feel super successful, and you're going to forget all about those bad happenings, whatever they might be. So I appreciate you all sticking with this now almost 20-minute video. I hope I didn't bore you too much, and I hope I gave you some recommendations that you might be able to use to be a little bit more successful in college. Again, I appreciate you all so much for watching this. If you like this video, if you found these tips successful or helpful, please like this video and subscribe down below. If you have anything that you'd like me to talk about in the future, any video ideas, or any comments or suggestions about this video itself, please comment down below. Again, I'm super thankful to have this channel and to have you all as viewers. It means the world to me. So again, thank you, and tune in next time.